The streets are filled with Christmas cheer. At least it's only once a year. Perfect parcels tied with perfect bows, and carols ringing in my ear. Bundled up against the cold, lines wherever gifts are sold.
Hello and welcome back to VHS Era. It is now the holiday season, and as we all know, with the holidays comes Christmas movies, Christmas TV show episodes, Christmas specials, Christmas everything. And because of that, there are so many Christmas VHSs out there. And we thought we'd begin with the holiday season with the VHS opening of a movie that was adapted from a Christmas special that was adapted from a book. Yes, I am talking about what might be the most divisive Christmas movie of all time, and that's saying something because they make like 5,000 Christmas movies a year, The Grinch, with Scott Hillman. Now,
Hey.
now Scott, you actually directed your own Christmas movie, which had an Ebenezer Scrooge figure in it. Could you tell us more about that movie?
That was The Magical Christmas Tree. It's a movie about an accountant who decided who when we first see him is a terrible Grinch who's humbugging and evicting orphans and all that kind of wonderful things. And then 5 minutes in, decides to change his mood, change everything, and throw a giant Christmas party and make Christmas everyone else's problem. And throughout the movie, it just creates chaos and such.
Yeah, but that's actually the subplot of the movie. What was the main plot of the movie?
Well, one of the Christmas workers gets asked to find a Christmas tree and go up into the mountains and chop it down and bring it back for everyone, where they meet an elf, fall in love, and end up and have a wonderful time. Don't want to spoil it.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, at the very end of the movie, one of the plots is the Christmas boss just goes through every plot I could think of for Christmas movies. So there's a scene based on A Christmas Story, various scenes based on like Die Hard and other things, and like at the very end of it, we do eventually get, of course, to The Grinch Who Stole Christmas.
Yeah. Now, I was mentioning a bit earlier how this might be, and again, this is saying something because like there are so many Christmas movies out there and Christmas stories. This might be like one of the most divisive Christmas movies, if not the most divisive Christmas movie ever, because it seems like with this specific movie, you either have people who grew up with the book and the Chuck Jones special who absolutely hate it, but then you have people who grew up with this movie who absolutely at least like it or love it. Like it seems like while the Cat in the Hat, the Mike Myers one, has at least been kind of regarded as a failure. Like people either love or hate this movie. And it does seem like it's sort of one thing that seems to have, caused this is, what Grinch you grew up with. Now,
that is it. That could be true. That could be true.
Mm-hmm. Now, I thought it was doubly interesting because I'm a millennial. You're Generation X, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have very
So,
distinct. I'll be honest with you. I have very distinct memories of this movie as
mhm,
a DVD. I'll
mhm,
tell you a story. I was working at a law office, and for some reason, I had to go to a Costco. And for some other reason, I can't remember, I had to spend like 20 to 30 minutes in the DVD section while they were playing these special features for this movie. And I just have very vivid memories of just watching these special features for this movie about how they made this movie, the wonderful creation story of this movie over and over again. And that, honestly, is kind of my primary memory of this movie. It's just the DVD of this.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that
But I was an
it
adult then. I was like early 20s.
yeah. So, but again, I think, that's, definitely the thing, like, you know, it also makes, I will say, yeah, that's the thing. I will say, as someone who was a child, who was, like, in the target audience, I did see this movie in theaters, when it first came out, and even back then, I was aware of the generational divide because my mom, I remember coming out, my mom brought me and my friend, and I remember my mom walking out hating it. And me and my friend, I think we liked it okay.
Yeah.
But I also saw it on DVD, and I remember this seemed to be a popular choice for a movie to play on before the holidays in
Okay.
schools. So I ended up watching this movie multiple times, not always of my own volition.
Okay.
um, and yeah, honestly, I don't. Maybe it's because I've been Stockholmed. I don't hate this movie, but I don't love it either. I don't know. It's, but I can kind of see why people would hate it or love it. It is a very, but it is kind of just a very weird mess of a movie that somehow feels too commercial and too avant-garde at the same time.
They
Uh,
made choices in this movie. Many choices were made. I'm not sure the right choices, and you can almost salute them for making it. But yeah, it's a lot of choices. There's a lot of like, it feels like at some point they were really trying to make a movie for kids, but they also wanted to make a movie for adults. They wanted to make a movie they wanted to make the movie to amuse themselves as much as kids, and it shows kind of places.
yeah, and I think another thing is like, well, obviously, if you made a movie that was 100% faithful to the book, or even the Christmas special, that would be a really short movie. You couldn't really make a feature length movie out of that. Changes were inevitable.
Ever seen the Lorax, the other Dr. Seuss movie from a couple years ago?
I have not seen the Lorax.
I'll tell you something. 90% of the Lorax is a 3 minute musical number towards the end of the movie. Everything else they invented. And in this movie, most of the actual book is like a 10-minute scene towards the end.
Yeah,
And that's a choice. I mean, I think I remember a review of this movie said very well. They basically kind of repeat the story 3 times. The Grinch comes down from the mountain, he does shit. Grinch comes down, he creates problems. Grinch comes down, he creates problems, and then he learns his lesson, and that's the movie. It's like the story it's the story repeated 3 separate times.
yeah, that's true. And another thing is like, with the changes they made, the ways they try to expand the story, they don't always sync up to the things they kept from the book. Like there's two instances where that happens that I can think of off the top of my head. So Cindy Lou Who is basically given this story where she's trying to convince everyone the Grinch isn't as bad as everyone thinks, and she even meets the Grinch. She sees him face to face. She has an entire argument with him.
Yeah.
She sees him at the big jubilation.
Yeah.
But because you have to have the scene from the book where she goes, "Oh Santa, why are you taking our tree?" She suddenly acts like she doesn't notice him, even though like she literally sees his face in that scene.
I myself am having some Yuletide doubts. But maybe if you can reunite with the Who's and be a part of Christmas.
Maybe if you can reunite with the Who's and be a part of Christmas. Grow up! And
bring it back here.
Santa, what's Christmas really about?
Vengeance!
I mean...
presents, I suppose.
I was afraid of that.
Well, part of the issue is the movie really adopts childlike logic.
Mm-hmm.
It says your kids. This is what kids think like in several times. Like there's a bit where like, oh, all of the Grinch comes in little what I forget the word, plebluvians down from the sky, and they immediately have a joke about, hey, it looks like you're a boss. And it wants to have it both ways, I think, a lot on childlike logic. I think the gag you're mentioning is kind of supposed to be funny, I guess. Because, oh God, suddenly this is a kid's movie kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, now, I don't know if it was even a gag. I just remember even when I saw it first in theaters thinking, wait, why doesn't she recognize him?
Yeah.
And again, I was like 8. So they end up repeating the same message twice. They have to have the dad give a speech about why Christmas is about more than presents. And then they have that whole speech, from the book. Christmas is about presents. Christmas is about more.
If she isn't, I am. I'm glad he took her presents. What? I'm glad.
How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags.
You can't hurt Christmas, Mr. Mayor. Because it isn't about the gifts or the contests or the fancy lights. That's what Cindy's been trying to tell everyone.
And he puzzled and puzzled till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before.
Maybe Christmas.
He thought.
Doesn't come from a star. Maybe Christmas. Perhaps. Means a little bit more.
The movie does get a little speechifying at the end, and one of the things about this movie is everyone is wearing like 20 pounds of makeup. And not everybody pulls it off very well. I mean, I think particularly Bill Irwin as her father just looks horrifying.
Yeah. I think that's another thing about this movie. It's like it seems like there's almost everything about it is like there's one good step, and then something bad, and then another bad step.
Yeah.
The Grinch's makeup is great. The Who's not so much.
Yeah, not so much. The costume, the art design in this movie, it looks great. It also always looks like a stage. And
Yeah,
it always looks at night, which is a choice, but it does makes it look scary. It looks kind of like a Batman movie at points.
I heard they tried to do it because, quote unquote, it made it look like it was taking place in a snow globe. But the choice to have most of the movie shot with this, like, shot in a way that it looked like someone breathed on the camera,
Yeah.
makes the move and
It
the
looks vaguely fisheye, like just a little bit of a fisheye, but yeah.
yeah, it kind of makes it look like it kind of and sort of like the and sort of the fast-paced editing. It kind of makes the movie just look ugly to watch. It looks like if you got 70s slash early 80s Brian De Palma to direct a children's Christmas movie.
Well, it's the last of the really big set movies. I mean, yeah, what's that movie? The 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T. That's the other classic Dr. Seuss movie. It does feel like if someone was to make a late 60s Technicolor movie and give it to like Brian De Palma or something like that, really just hyper focused and movie. And then the script came from the early 90s.
Yeah, 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 exactly. But while the movie might not be great, maybe the trailers are better.
I'm sure they are.
He's lost. He's alone. And he's 3 million light years from home. In spring 2002, only in theaters.
Begin with the movie
Steven
that
Spielberg's masterpiece.
is much better.
Yeah.
It's a much better movie.
I think I remember the re-release of this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw it when it was re-released.
I think I said it in there too.
Experience the mystery.
Wait, what is it? I don't know. Something scary.
The wonder.
What's happening?
I kind of want to see the original trailer because this is definitely a 2000s trailer.
That started it all. With never before seen footage, enhanced special effects, and an all-new digitally remastered soundtrack. The extraordinary 20th anniversary edition.
Ooh.
E.T., the extraterrestrial.
I'll be right here.
This is
Only
great
in
puppet work.
theaters, March 2002.
Well done, but not as good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes you think of the puppet from Grinch. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I remember the re-release basically I remember, like I said, I actually saw E.T. when it was re-released in 2002.
Yeah.
And I just remember how cool it was to see like a classic in theaters. I think by that point, the only other re-release I had seen in theaters was Yellow Submarine when they re-released that back in the late 90s. But that being said, I didn't find out until later that there was this controversy about how people didn't like that they replaced the guns with walkie-talkies. I think that's where that infamous thing.
Well, one thing I noticed about that trailer was who's the actor in that movie? Is it John Coyote? You see John Coyote's face.
Peter.
In the original movie, they spent 2/3 of the movie. You never see his face for like 2/3 of the movie. He's the villain. He's the evil scientist who turns out to be not so bad. But the guns do add to his threat to that movie, which I think is interesting. Interesting they would remove. But yeah, I guess I don't know. It's a movie that to compare it to The Grinch, I guess, because that's what's in front of me. That's a movie that's wants to be a movie for all ages, but I do think the 2000s version wants to maybe make it a little focused towards kids. Then good, then perhaps it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mean VT?
Yeah, ET. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I don't know. It's a fine like re-release trailer. It's like
the trailer. The trailer is good. The trailer is fine. I think the trailer is fine.
Yeah, it's like it's basically, and we were talking about this with the Sleeping Beauty trailer. It does basically what it is basically that what the Little Mermaid re-release trailer did. Hey, remember all this, and that's kind of the point.
Yeah, if I can give it, if I could ding it for anything, it does show a lot of the movie. I mean, you see the the last scene of the movie is in that trailer, and if you've never seen that movie, it maybe shows a little much.
Yeah, I guess, but I guess their thinking was that like by this point everyone had seen E.T., which I don't know, that might not necessarily be true. That's probably what they were thinking.
I remember watching a trailer for Empire Strikes Back for its re-release, and they literally says, "He never told you who your father was," because that's your climax. That's you don't show that.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess they're just thinking is, you know what? Everyone's seen this movie. Why even bother? Why even bother keeping things a secret, which can be good or for ill. To mention another Universal and Imagine Entertainment produced movie, the teaser trailer for the Gus Van Sant Psycho was just basically, you know his name, Norman Bates.
When a mother has to speak the words that condemn her only son, but I couldn't allow them to believe that I would commit murder.
And it's like, that was supposed to be a twist.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know now, that he's, the villain of that movie, but still.
Hi, Jimmy, your friends are here.
This is a special birthday for Jimmy. After waiting 3 years, he was adopted. But thousands of kids, some older, some with brothers and sisters, still wait for the love and protection of a family.
Hi, I'm Dave Thomas. I'm adopted, so I know the love adoption brings to both a child and family. Think about adopting a special child. They grow up to be special people.
Call today, 1-800-2-ADOPT, or your local adoption agency for more information.
Nice message.
It's a nice message, but why is there an adoption commercial before the Grinch? I don't get it. Like, what do the two have in common?
Well, I mean, actually, the movie seems very ambiguous if it's about adoption or not, but
yeah.
One of the things I was watching it realizing last night was the Grinch is either adopted or he has lesbian mothers. And the movie is ambiguous on which. So
yeah, that's true. Like, it seems like they kind of imply he was like adopted. But I don't know, it still seems like a very loose connection. I just like one plot point in the whole movie. Actually,
I'm going to say this. This is the kind of message that's I want to say is harmless enough, and like if this got one child adopted, I'm not going to kill it.
All right, that's fair.
I just got to go to where they make movies at Universal Studios Hollywood. I got to meet Chucky and Tommy and Angelica and all the Rugrats in person in a cool magic show. Then I saw this really funny Nutty Professor show with real Hollywood sound effects. And Terminator 2 3D was just like being inside a movie. Awesome. And we did tons of cool stuff at Universal City Walk. My friends will never believe I got into Hollywood.
Universal Studios Hollywood, the world's largest movie studio and theme park.
Where do you live?
I live in New York.
I live in Los Angeles. And I've lived in Los Angeles all my life. And I've been to Universal Studios many times. I don't think I saw any of those attractions. I missed the Terminator one. I missed the Nutty Professor one. Yeah. The Magic Show, never saw it.
You know what? I've been to Universal Studios at least a couple times, and I think I've at least gone to the Terminator one. I will just say that is a very early 2000s ad. And like,
I remember when I went to City Walk a couple of years ago, I just had this immense wave of nostalgia. My God, the 90s never died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like going to the theme park feels like you're still in the 90s. That definitely felt like Universal Studios ad you'd see on like Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network. You know, the excited kid announcer, the fast-paced editing.
Yeah.
It's very if the Grinch was on ABC Family, when the Grinch was on ABC Family, I'm sure an ad similar to that played at least once.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. I'm probably sure that exact ad played. I doubt they just made it for this trailer.
Yeah, I'm sure this was on Nickelodeon. I'm sure this ad was on Nickelodeon like all the time.
Universal Orlando, home of 2 amazing theme parks, dazzling entertainment, and non-stop excitement. Wow. Universal Studios is the only place on Earth where you can
another
find
Universal ad.
Islands of Adventure, Orlando's next generation theme park.
Of course.
Where the world's most innovative rides and attractions take your imagination where it's never gone before. It's City Walk, Orlando's hottest spot for entertainment. City Walk has it all. 2 amazing theme parks, City Walk Entertainment Complex, Portofino Bay Hotel, and the all-new Hard Rock Hotel. Universal Orlando.
Well, they just played the same ad again.
Well, not literally, but yeah, it's just like it's very, very similar. Another Universal Studios ad with the same type of editing, with the same type of look at all these awesome things.
I mean, some of the attractions are exactly the same thing. You saw Terminator, you saw like Jaws, you saw all of that again. Yeah.
Yeah. The only big difference is that they don't have a kid narrating over it this time. Yeah. And you know what's weird? If they're gonna have a Universal Studios ad, now that I don't begrudge them for, because this is a Universal Pictures movie.
Yeah.
But why don't they have an ad for Grinchmas? Have you ever heard of Grinchmas?
I have, certainly have.
Yeah, like Grinchmas has been around since 2000. This is the VHS for The Grinch.
Yeah.
Wouldn't this be the perfect place to put an ad for Grinchmas?
Good point.
Like, I mean,
if you can say, like I said, the one thing about this, one of the things about this movie that's really good is the art design. And Grinchmas, you know, say what you will, it shows off the art design. I'm pretty sure some of the art pieces from that movie made it to Grinchmas. I mean, you can probably literally see some of the bells and things like that from Grinch.
Yeah, it was. I also remember it was on the Universal Studios tour when I went. I remember the tour announcer was like, "Can you believe Whoville is right behind?" Oh, gonna mention Psycho again. The Bates Motel, isn't that wacky? But you know what? Actually, speaking of Grinchmas, I've never been because, like, when I went to Universal Studios, it was like I think summer, but I've seen pictures and videos of Grinchmas, and Grinchmas takes direct inspiration from this movie. They even have an actress playing Christine Baranski's character, Martha May, in the show. So that's another reason they should have had an ad for Grinchmas if they were going to do a Universal Studios ad.
Well, I think maybe they were thinking that what if you were watching this movie in summertime, even though I have no idea why you would.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe some like kids would want to watch it like all year round because they don't really care about
Possibly.
seasonal movies.
Right.
But yeah, actually, that's another thing. For a Christmas movie, this VHS opening hasn't been very Christmassy.
Oh,
E.T.,
yeah.
2 Universal Studios ads, adoption. I guess maybe the adoption commercial could be vaguely Christmassy.
Possibly families about spending time with your family. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the only kind of Christmas thing in it. Yeah, where are you Christmas? Because you're nowhere in this ad.
Relive all the adventure, all the magic, and all the joy of this holiday season's #1 movie with the Grinch original movie soundtrack, featuring Faith Hill's Where Are You Christmas? Plus 9 all-new songs, including Busta Rhymes with Jim Carrey, Bare Naked Ladies, Smash Mouth, and
Very early
NSYNC.
2000s.
Also featuring the original score from Oscar-winning composer James Horner, the Grinch original movie soundtrack, in stores now.
Now that's something that feels 90s, early 2000s, that it
Yeah.
has a power ballad in it, even though it's like mostly a goofy comedy.
It's
You know,
mostly goofy comedy, but they have a lot of contemporary music.
Yeah.
For a movie that clearly takes place in a fantasy world, the music really does sound like, oh, we just got the music, we got the universal, we got the bands we could find on speed dial, we could get the Bare Naked Ladies.
Yeah, and they had also played that Smash Mouth song, I think and I can't believe I'm saying this, but no spoilers for a 23-year-old movie. They do play the Smash Mouth song during the key party scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that is one thing I had meant. I think I mentioned before, like it almost seemed to be the law in Hollywood that almost every movie had to have a power ballad song in it. And of course, Where Are You Christmas is this movie's power ballad song. And it's not a bad song. It's very catchy.
I think you're being a little generous to it, but okay, I'm not going to fight on that one.
I mean, I've heard worse power ballads. I don't know, like I've heard more, at least mediocre power ballads.
Yeah, you're right.
But again, it really only feels like it's in the movie because it was 2000 and the law that every movie has to have a power ballad hadn't been
I'll tell
abolished.
you this. I think I know a lot of musicians, and probably musicians are listening to this. The music industry has gone through a lot of upheavals, and it's much harder to make a living actually playing music. And that is a tragedy, and that is sad. I also, if there's any benefit from that at all, movies don't have to push the soundtrack as hard as they used to. I bet the reason all of those songs were in the movie is so they could sell the record. We need to push the record, so we'll put a power ballad in. We'll put all of these incongruous songs in it to really sell that record home. This is one of the situations where they exist to have a commercial, I think.
Yeah, and I will say about the soundtrack commercial itself, there's nothing really to it. It's a very generic soundtrack commercial. The music video for like the main song, Where Are You Christmas, plays, and the narrator says, here are the other songs. Here are the other musicians on our CD. And that's pretty much it. This is
all the commercials we've seen so far. This one seems like the most it was directly made for this trailer commercial bit.
Yeah. That's the best thing I can think of. You know what's actually weird? Like almost every movie I've covered on this show has had a soundtrack commercial attached to it, because that was a very, as you were saying, they had to push the movie soundtracks around this time. So, The Mask had one, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island had one, Scream had one, Out of Sight had one. A History of Violence is the one that didn't have one, because that was mid 2000s. I think they were kind of phasing out.
Also, that's a drama. So I mean, they don't do it very much for dramas, but
yeah. But what I thought was funny is the only other movie I've covered that doesn't have a soundtrack commercial is a literal musical, Sleeping Beauty. Like of all the movies that probably where a soundtrack commercial would actually fit, it would be that one. So I thought that's kind of funny.
Yeah, I gotta say, this is the worst commercial we've seen so far.
Well,
it also seems like the least effort into.
Yeah, it's definitely the most generic.
Looking for the perfect holiday gift? Then look no further, because Shrek is now on video.
Yeah, you're gonna love it.
It's the perfect gift for everyone on your list.
Oh yeah, minus of a much better movie, Shalia.
People magazine calls it monstrously clever.
You didn't slay the dragon?
It's on my to-do list. Us Weekly says it's brilliant. This holiday season, you'll be a believer too. Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz, John Lithgow, Shrek on video and DVD. It's the one gift everyone wants.
Christmas. You were talking about that earlier.
Well, yeah, they put a Santa hat on Shrek, and I will say it's funny that they have the Shrek, a trailer for Shrek's VHS release, because I think it's the movie the Grinch thinks it is, kind of a comedic take on well-known children's stories that has off-color jokes. But it's not. But unlike the Grinch, it's not beholden to both be sort of this comedic parody, but also an actual adaptation of the tales it's trying to adapt. It more knows what it's trying to be and works that way. So it's kind of like funny that they have it on, because it's like, this is the movie you want to be, but it's better at it.
I will say this: I haven't watched Shrek in a long time, and looking at that commercial, honestly, the CGI looks better than I thought it would. It's actually, yes, you're absolutely right. Shrek is a pretty good movie. In retrospect, Shrek is a very fun movie.
Yeah, and although actually it's weird because Mike Myers, I just realized it's also weird that they have Shrek on the a trailer for Shrek on the VHS for the Grinch, because Mike Myers would be the Cat in the Hat a couple years later.
Yeah.
Actually, it's even weirder because there are two Austin Powers cast members in The Grinch. There's Mindy Sterling. She plays his mom. She plays one of his moms.
Yeah.
And Vern Troyer is one of the Who's, one of the background Who's. He actually had a line, but it was cut.
Oh no! Who let the dog in?
Yeah, you're no Charles Grodin.
One's
Reinhold
in need of social graces. The other's a dog living high on the hog. When their worlds collide, everything goes to the dogs.
He didn't pick up. Folded your napkin.
That's weird.
That's weird.
Beethoven's back for double the trouble in the movie that will make the whole family howl. Judge Reinhold and Julia Sweeney are back for more in Beethoven's Fourth.
Did not know this movie existed. Thank you, trailers. Thank you, trailers for 2000 movie. Year 2000 movie.
Yeah. Well, you can tell it's their fourth movie, and they're doing a Prince and the Pauper situation. They're already running out of ideas.
That implies there are ideas to begin with. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, that doesn't look terrible.
It looks like a kid. It looks like
a kid's movie.
Yeah. I don't know. There was Beethoven's a strange franchise. I was looking it up after, looking at these trailers for the first time. Well, it's not really that strange of a franchise. It had a hit. There was one hit movie, back in the early 90s, followed up with another hit movie, almost a year later. Then they didn't really do anything with the property. Then they just brought it back in the early 2000s and just sporadically make sequels. The last one was actually 9 years ago, if you can believe it. But this trailer just looks like whatever. I will just say, no offense to him, Judge Reinhold does not seem like he wants to be there, judging by the two lines.
Yeah.
He just
Judge Reinhold always had a very odd career in Hollywood because he's got a funny name. He's kind of a generic middle-aged guy in most of his movies.
Yeah.
Like who's the Charles Grodin is in the first movie. He's the guy you can get when Charles Grodin doesn't want to do your film anymore.
Yeah. And it was just like at least Charles Grodin can be count on to sound legitimately angry when he yells Beethoven, and Judge Reinhold was just like, Beethoven, no.
He just sounds slightly annoyed and slightly perplexed by it. Why do I have a dog? Why am I in this? Why is this the Prince and the Pauper for some reason?
Yeah. I don't know. Actually, Charles Grodin, this was during the time he had retired and became a political commentator. So that's probably why he wasn't in the movie, though he did eventually come back to acting, before his death. But even if he was still acting, who knows if he would have even returned for this direct-to-video sequel.
I will say this. Having not seen the movie, the premise seems kind of stupid and silly enough that it could kind of work. I don't know. I almost want to watch that movie now.
Your kids' favorite characters are back. Join Littlefoot, Sarah, Petrie, Spike, and Ducky in their greatest adventure. Universal Studios Home Video is proud to present The Land Before Time, The Big Freeze.
That looked like fun.
Featuring the dazzling animation your family has come to expect from the Land Before Time films.
Everyone wants to be respected.
With fun new songs.
Everyone wants to be liked.
This holiday season, everyone will want to bring home the enchantment of Littlefoot and his friends. The Land Before Time, The Big Freeze.
Fun, fun, fun.
So I'm going to mince my words carefully because I know someone who worked on the Land Before Time sequels, and I don't want to end my friendship. So I'll just say that, when it comes to franchises like this, where a lot of people think they kind of ran out of steam and should have ended many movies ago, personally, as long as I don't watch it, I don't really care because it doesn't really affect me or the movies I do watch. But I will just say, and this isn't on, my friend who worked on these movies. This is totally on the people who made this trailer. It doesn't really say anything about the movie other than there's a new Land Before Time movie out, and it has the characters and has songs.
But you're talking earlier about seeing the Grinch in theaters. I saw A Land Before Time in theaters, and that is a gorgeous, gorgeous movie. That is one of the most beautiful animated movies of the 80s, legitimately. And it has no songs. It needs no songs because it is just can get by on just these vivid animations. And they made we have a sequel now. So I will join you in your vague statements about this movie. And the trailer does not look that impressive.
Yeah, it's just like, here's a new
What's the story? What are they doing? They're vaguely playing with snow. It's
it's just there's a new Land Before Time movie out. Now there's snow.
There's a song that seems to be done really for the young kids about being respected and things like that. So why are they singing that song? I don't know.
And that was the very last trailer on the Grinch VHS. Now, I'll rate it with, skip to the previews or go to still working out this new rating system. So I'll rate it with stay through the previews or skip to the feature. But seeing as we both have very mixed thoughts on the feature, let's rate it less on whether or not we'd actually prefer watching the movie and more on whether or not this is actually a good collection of trailers and VHSs. Personally,
go first. You go first.
Yeah, personally, it's well, it has two movies. It has a trailer for two movies I'd honestly rather be watching. It has two Universal Studio trailers that I get why they would put an ad for Universal Studios, but like they're just very generic theme park commercials and a very generic soundtrack commercial and two trailers for very generic looking kids movies. So I can't say the collection of trailers and commercials was a much better experience. So I guess on that case, I won't even say skip to the feature or stay through the previews. I just say turn it off entirely. What do you think, Scott?
Oh, I'm going to say this. Stay for the previews. I really enjoyed this, actually.
Oh.
These were a lot of fun trailers for good movies. Like I said, the last movie, there was a couple bits here and there, but I enjoyed this a lot. Even like you're saying, good movies, even the theme park commercials, I kind of liked because they're a park that doesn't exist anymore. It does have this kind of digital archaeology quality of this thing. Being in the 90s, 2000s kind of trailer, reminded me of my childhood or my young adulthood, so to speak. I really enjoyed this, actually. I quite enjoyed them, actually.
All right.
So stay to the trailers. Maybe don't see the movie. Just stay for the trailers.
Yeah. Or if you stay through the movie, just fast forward to the good bits.
Right.
But Scott, where can we find you?
I'm on Facebook. I theoretically have a Twitter, but I recommend if you want to watch a really good movie this Christmas, watch The Magical Christmas Tree. It's on Tubi, Amazon, and other places like that. I try to push the movie. It's on Revi, the LGBT gay streaming service. Anywhere you can watch. You can watch the stories about cute little people having a wonderful time on the Christmas and having a great time. Unlike the 2000 movie, The Grinch. Or watch both. Who cares? It's Christmas. Who am I to stop you?
Yeah. But now that we are done with that, I have an exciting announcement to make. I am actually joined by a very famous guest, actually an early 2000s child star icon. I won't spoil who. And we are going to be watching another divisive, we're going to be watching the trailers for another divisive holiday movie starring a very Grinchy character. I am, of course, talking about 8 Crazy Nights. We'll see you then, everyone. And yeah, later, everyone.
Merry Christmas, everyone, and to all a good night.
With this coat and this hat, I look just like St. Nick.